Alrighty, good morning, everybody out there. It is Wednesday. We had a terrific Taco Tuesday. Well, if you're in the Patreon Discord community, it was a terrific Taco Tuesday because we talked some folks off of the Kyle Kuzma taco. We talked people into the Klay Thompson taco. So if you played those tacos, took maybe the under on Kyle Kuzma's taco, or maybe you just faded Kyle Kuzma's taco altogether, you avoided some potential pain. If you took the Klay Thompson taco over, well, that ended up coming through in the fourth quarter and ended up being a profitable night for me. Additionally, on top of that, I wrote up a couple of plays for the Patreon folks out there. We took Lou Dort. Lou Dort over 14.5 points. He ended up covering. So that ended up helping people make some money last night in the Patreon community that I have. And we also took the over on, who was the other one? Who was the other one, guys? Help me remember. Lou Dort and... Dang, I'm drawing a blank. Who was it? I really can't remember. DeAndre Ayton. Thank you. DeAndre Ayton. Drew a complete blank there. So we took the over on Lou Dort's points and we took the over on DeAndre Ayton. How could I forget DeAndre Ayton? If you watched that game or paid any kind of attention to it, both Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton hit their points props in the final 5 or 10 seconds of that game. Both of them ended up getting fouled and going to the free throw line. So if you took the over on Chris Paul's points, if you took the over on DeAndre Ayton's points, man, it was a sweat, but it ended up being a profitable sweat. It was worth sweating for. So yes, thank you so much to everybody who is joining me this morning and everybody who continues to support through Patreon. We had a good night last night, and I hope to run it back again. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of your comments, some of your thoughts, your ideas, things that you're talking about here. If this is your first time to the channel, thank you so much for joining me. My name's CJ, by the way. I do this sort of thing every morning, typically Monday through Friday around 11 a.m. Eastern time. So we talk about NBA player props. Once the NBA is over, we'll probably get into some other sport. Not sure what that looks like just yet, but we got to keep things rolling around here. So definitely subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. Yesterday, we passed 3,700 subscribers. So a lot of growth since we started this thing back on January 1st of last year, 2021. So I appreciate all the continued support. As I mentioned in the comment section in the chat before going live here, we broke 200 likes yesterday. You guys came out of the woodwork and hit that like button, and I appreciate it. That's what helps this channel continue to thrive and grow. So I appreciate all the outpouring of support that you guys give each and every day. And hopefully I'm helping you become better player prop bettors, better researchers and making more money. So I appreciate everything, guys. Patty says, let's go ahead and smash the like button. Appreciate that, Patty. King Chris says, waiting 4 likes. Good number so far. Yeah, that's a 1-to-1, 100% hit rate right there. Appreciate that, man. Lowballer, good to see you. Jimmy, welcome back. Jimmy's a member of our Patreon community along with King Chris. Love to see that. He liked the live, got the pen and the notepad out, getting ready to take some notes. I love it, man. That's sometimes the best way to do it is just to grab a pen, paper, and go ahead and start scribbling down some of your favorite prop plays. Mac B, Patreon gang had a great night last night. Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about just a moment ago. Listen, sometimes there's going to be ups and downs, smiles and frowns. If you follow me on Twitter, you know what I'm talking about. I posted a good Snoop Dogg song from him 12 years ago, but for some reason it just resonated with me last night. There's going to be ups and downs, smiles and frowns in this player prop game and in life, folks, and in life. Yesterday was an up day, and yesterday there was a lot of smiles and hopefully few frowns. Wesley, what's happening? Thanks for joining me this morning. Tony, good morning to you. The clay taco was on point. The other two were rotten. Yeah, bad tacos. No bueno. King says, Patreon gang in here. Shout out to you, King. Thanks for joining. Walker, good morning to you. Ronald's Green back up in the building again. Love to see it. You're here every morning with that what's up. Super consistent, Ronald. Appreciate you being here. Steady D says, what's happening? Trill Fate, good to see you again. Crap tacos yesterday. Yeah, the tacos ended up going 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3. Clay Thompson, the only taco that was a tasty taco. Everyday Fantasy, good seeing you this morning. You're back again. Ben, good morning. Albert, hello to you. Jack, we got you. You got me? You got my back with those likes? I appreciate you, gang. I appreciate you. Let's keep it going. Zamir says, good morning. Michael, good morning to you. Won $150 last night. Shout out to you, Michael. I'm glad that I was able to help you get to that triple-digit win last night. Busy Time says, last night was a good night. Good to hear that. Sounds like for a lot of people it was a good night. Sean, good morning to you. Bless up. That Ayton prop came through at the end. I'd almost given up hope. Well, listen, when we take these player props, we take them with the mindset of we're going to get 4 quarters out of these guys. Hopefully, right? We're paying for 4 quarters. And we're paying for every second of those 4 quarters. And it took darn near every second for both Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton to go over their point props. So yes, we don't give up until it's zeros on the clock. All right. King Chris says, big night for me last night. He had a 5-pick. A lot of plays talked about in yesterday's stream. That's right. He takes a lot of notes. King Chris is definitely taking the notes, and it's paying off for him. Cam says, ain't a show if Killa Cam ain't here. What's happening to you, Killa Cam? Love it, man. Love it. Research Prevails, another Patreon/Discord member who I think won last night. He ended up putting me on, what was it? Lou Dort over on Rebounds. And I want to say that maybe Research Prevails also mentioned something about Spencer Dinwiddie over 16.5 points. Guys, with Bradley Beal out of the lineup, Spencer Dinwiddie has hit 16.5 points in every game this season. I'm just saying. Next time Spencer Dinwiddie's on the board and Bradley Beal is out, if he's up there at like 16.5, 17.5 points, consider Spencer Dinwiddie over on points. He has not missed that prop yet with Bradley Beal being out of the lineup. David's already coming through with a super chat. He says, good morning, CJ. Stop the show. Stop the show? Like stop right here, dead in my tracks. What have you got here? What have you got here that warrants stopping the show? Let's take a look. Lauri Markkanen 3-point makes with Jarrett Allen. Game logs. Show them before it goes to 2. Well, that's kind of throwing a big old monkey wrench in the way things typically go. All right. I'm going to step out of line here, folks. We're going to do it a little bit different. If you're catching the replay, forget the chapters. Chapters are going out the window. We're going to do something a little bit different. David says this is 911 emergency type stuff. We got to look at Lauri Markkanen's 3-point makes with Jarrett Allen. Okay, let's do it. And then we'll get on to our normal routine. Where are we going here? We're going to StatMuse. And we're going to search for what David is talking about here. Shout out to David, a.k.a. Whodat. He wants to look at Lauri Markkanen 3-point makes with Jarrett Allen. Game logs. Okay. I see what you're talking about here. How many games do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So out of 25 games, Lauri Markkanen with Jarrett Allen, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 out of 25. 17 out of 25. Hey Siri, what's 17 over 25 as a percentage?
17 over 25 is 68%.
68% hit rate. All right. David dropped the gem in here, folks. David dropped the gem. He says, we had to stop everything, take us off the rails a little bit because he believes in this prop so much. Listen, I got him projected for 2.3 3-point makes going up against Utah tonight. And he's a -140 betting favorite to go over 1.5 triples. We could take this a step further. We could look at the last 7 games, go to the small forward position, go to 3-point makes. Utah giving up 3.2 3-point makes to opposing small forwards over the last 7 games. All right. There you go. I did it, David. Appreciate you dropping it. It's looking pretty good. I think that might have been a play that was worth stepping out of line for. All right. Now let's get back on track. Shout out to Jeremy. Thanks for joining me this morning. Justin, the GOAT, CJ is back. Yeah, I'm trying to help folks out here. Definitely trying to help as many of you out as I can. The stud, Killa Cam says those 3-point takes are a dangerous sweat. Could be a dangerous sweat. You're right. Andrew, CJ's the GOAT. Well, you're the GOAT for joining me. I appreciate you being here. Toby, last night was a great night. Glad you had a good night. Yes, DeAndre Ayton was the man. I totally blanked out on that. The stud, Killa Cam says I took Kuzma's free throws. All right. JMN, CJ, what to do? You tell me what to do, JMN. What's happening? Delvin Shin says, what's up, CJ? Got me a small bag yesterday. Taco, yes. Appreciate you. Appreciate you as well. Juju, no need to fear. Juju is here. Love it. Has anyone seen Jonathan Isaac's book trailer? I have not. I will have to go check that out. As an Orlando Magic fan, I must be asleep. Must be asleep on that. Juan Julio doubled up yesterday in my Nipsey Hussle voice. Love to hear it. Busy says Van Vliet hurt everyone. He got tired. You think fatigue played a factor for Freddie Van Vliet? I hope not. I hope not. Aaron Rodgers is in the building. I lost big time yesterday. Aaron freaking Rodgers. The Green Bay Packers quarterback is here, folks. Everyday Fantasy says Patreon is a steal. I suggest y'all support immediately. Look, it's $20, guys. You got to win one $10 two-pick power play over the entire month in order to get your money back. In order to break even, you got to win one $10 two-pick power play. If you're active in Discord, if you're in there participating, being an active community member, I don't think you're going to have any problems winning your money back. Anthony says, win it back Wednesday. Yes, win it back Wednesday. I like that. Good to see Neville. Good morning to you. Dylan Cooper's up in here. What's up, CJ? What's up to you, my friend? Thanks for joining me this morning. George, good morning as well. Who else do we have in here? Thomas took Dinwiddie over on points. Yeah, he's been smashing. He has been smashing. Research Prevail says, smash that like button, y'all. It's embarrassing percentage going on right now. Give them a little time. We'll cut them a little slack. It's probably 8 a.m. over on the West Coast. Some of these folks are just getting that crust up out of their eyes, getting their coffee in them, their energy drink in them. They kind of have to build up, we'll say, ramp up a little bit. But I think that play that David just dropped in here is worth a like all on its own. All on its own. SW843 said, made bad moves. Got to get right tonight. We'll get you right tonight. It all starts right here, right now, getting people right. Bruno says, let's go, people. Let's make some money tonight. Yesterday was a good tonight. God bless you, Curry. God bless you as well, Bruno. And shout out to everybody else that we have not said hello to yet. Okay? Now, let's get back down to business. We're going to run through this slate. We've got a number of different NBA games to take a look at here. So let's go ahead and do so right now. Starting off at 7 p.m., Boston Celtics, Indiana Pacers, 210.5 point implied total, 3-point spread. Not a whole lot of guys that are ruled out here that are going to be impactful. Really, the only players that are ruled out are TJ McConnell, Anderson, and Warren for Indiana. We do have a lot of game time decisions. A lot of players on a GTD situation that we have to keep an eye out on. Starting with the Indiana side, Karis LeVert, Malcolm Brogdon, and we'll even throw Duarte in there. He's been a pretty good little player here recently. So we got to keep an eye on Brogdon and LeVert, most importantly. Over on the Boston Celtics side, Marcus Smart, game time decision. If he doesn't play, Dennis Schroeder will fill in, and we'll have a lineup of Schroeder, Brown, Tatum, Horford, and the Time Lord, Robert Williams. All right, 7 p.m., Charlotte Hornets at the Philadelphia 76ers, 226.5 implied point total. You gotta love it. Anytime Charlotte's involved in a game, it's probably going to be a high-scoring game, 220, 230 implied points anytime Charlotte takes the floor. Now, this game, surprisingly, has just a 5-point spread, so it looks like it's going to stay somewhat close and competitive here. For Charlotte, Kelly Oubre is out for the second game in a row, so no Oubre off the bench, which means maybe the starting lineup gets a little bit more minutes, a little bit more run. LaMelo Ball, Rozier, Gordon Hayward, Miles Bridges, and Mason Plumlee. Over on the Philadelphia side, Seth Curry is a game time decision, so definitely keep an eye on his status. He's been hooping for the Philadelphia 76ers, but his availability tonight is in question, so we have to keep an eye out on him. No Shake Milton, and obviously no Ben Simmons. Sounds like the Atlanta Hawks might be the front runners or trade suitors for Ben Simmons. Do you guys think that Ben Simmons and Trae Young, and I guess it would be Clint Capella, maybe they try to keep John Collins too? I don't know. Do you think Ben Simmons and Trae Young would mesh well? Assuming that Trae Young stays and that they somehow trade for Ben Simmons and don't have to give away Collins, Capella, or Ice Trae. That'd be an interesting dynamic, having Ben Simmons and Trae Young in the backcourt together. I'm just saying. That would be a scary team. 7 p.m., my Orlando Magic taking on the Washington Wizards, 215.5 point total. 6-point spread here in favor of the Washington Wizards. Now, if you were paying attention to the news yesterday, you saw Bradley Beal missed yesterday's game. Unfortunately, Brad Beal was a late scratch, we'll call it. Out for the Magic, Jonathan Isaac, Carter Williams, Moore, Fultz, Carter, Suggs, and Bamba. Now, pay attention to that front court. Carter and Bamba are out. no Carter, no Bamba. All right, that's huge. That means Robin Lopez and Chuma Okeke will step into the front court for the Orlando Magic. So who knows what's going to happen with that. Over on the Washington Wizards side, Wanamaker, Beal. We talked about Beal. We talked about liking Spencer Dinwiddie over 16.5 points. We're going to have to take a look at his line today and see where he's at. But 16.5 points was very good last night on Spencer Dinwiddie. Rui Hachimura is back in the mix here for the Washington Wizards. You love to see that. 7:30 p.m. Dallas Mavericks at the New York Knicks. 205.5 total. 2-point spread here. So not a very high scoring game. This is probably going to be one of those ugly, grinded out type of games, slow, low pace, not running up and down the floor. But for the Dallas Mavericks, Kristaps Porzingis is the biggest piece of injury news. He's already ruled out, but we will have Luka Doncic and Jalen Brunson in there, along with DFS, Kleber, and Powell up front. Over on the New York Knicks side, game time decisions for Kemba Walker, Nerlens Noel, and Taj Gibson. Already ruled out is Derrick D. Rose. All right, 7:30 p.m., the Miami Heat at the Atlanta Hawks, 223.5 point total. Very juicy total. Could be a good game to target some overs on potentially. And just a 3-point spread in favor of the home team, the Atlanta Hawks. Starting things off with the Miami Heat, Dwayne Dedmon, game time decision. Already ruled out are Morris, Oladipo, Bam Adebayo, Okpala, Butler, Garrett, and Holman. We were thinking that maybe Jimmy Butler would be back for this game, but it doesn't look like he's going to be in there. Over on the Atlanta side of things, we've got Cooper, Hunter, Reddish, and Capella game time decisions. Keep an eye on both Cam Reddish and Clint Capella. Those could be very impactful pieces of injury news. Hill and Clemens already ruled out, so this game might be a fun one to take some overs on. 8:30 p.m. brings us a battle for Texas. We got the Houston Rockets versus the San Antonio Spurs. 230.5 total. Man, 230 or more. You got to be licking your chops here if you're thinking about taking some overs on this game. 6.5-point spread out for Houston. Or I'm sorry, not out, but game time decisions. Sengun and Brooks, both GTDs. Game time decisions. For the San Antonio Spurs, we got McDermott, Collins, Vassell, Johnson, White, and Jones. They're still running a very, very thin roster here. So it'll be the likes of Jakob Poeltl, Bates Diop, Joshua Primo, who's been balling, Lonnie Walker, and DeJounte Murray. All right. 9 p.m. Cleveland Cavaliers at the Utah Jazz. 222.5 implied point total, 5.5-point spread. It doesn't look like we're going to see Rudy Gobert tonight for the Utah Jazz. No Gobert. So it'll be Hassan Whiteside manning the middle once again for the Utah Jazz. Joe Ingles, game time decision. That's another one that's pretty impactful. The rest of these guys, not really anybody you need to worry about. For Cleveland, their backcourt again continues to deal with a lot of long-term injuries, with both Sexton and Rubio being out, and then Isaac Okoro also out for Cleveland. And we got a couple more games here. The Los Angeles Lakers at the Sacramento Kings. Tip-off is at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. 231.5 point total. Super sky-high total from this one. 3.5-point spread. You gotta love that. Should be a high-scoring game. Should stay close and competitive. It should, but you know how the NBA goes. Crazy things happen sometimes. Kendrick Nunn, Anthony Davis, both already ruled out. Over on the Sacramento side, keep an eye on Tristan Thompson. He is a GTD. They're already without Rashawn Holmes and Jones, so their front court a little thin. It's going to be the likes of Metu and Alex Lynn manning the middle. We'll have to wait and see on Tristan Thompson's availability, but love the total on this one. Love the spread. A couple of Cali teams battling it out late night. And then last but not least, this will be a very fun game, a game that I'm absolutely looking forward to. This could be a future Eastern Conference final showdown between these two teams. We finally get to see what the Brooklyn Nets and the Chicago Bulls look like at pretty much full strength. Each team kind of missing a couple of key players, but for the most part, the key components are there for both squads, and this is going to be my game of the night. This is the one I'm looking forward to the most. 232.5 point total here, folks. Love that total. This game should have plenty of points, and it's a 1.5-point spread according to the Vegas lines makers. Keep an eye out on both Kyrie Irving and James Harden. I do expect and I do hope that both play. I really want to see Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant battle it out with the likes of Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic. I mean, I'm just looking forward to it, all right? This is like must-see TV for me. Blockbuster type stuff. Keep an eye on Nick Claxton. He's also a game time decision. Already ruled out Joe Harris and LaMarcus Aldridge for the Brooklyn Nets. Over on the Bulls side, we got Williams, Cook, Green, and Caruso already ruled out. So loving this game. Gotta watch it. I'll stay up late for this one. I don't care if it is 10 p.m. I don't even know if that's the right time. Why is it 10 p.m. if it's an East Coast game? That can't be right? They got to be playing earlier than that. I don't know. We'll double check the time. But nonetheless, looks like a very, very fun game. All right. So I already talked about, in case you missed it, we talked about Lauri Markkanen 3-point makes being one to keep an eye out on. Let's go ahead and start digging into some of these player props, folks. We'll be using the tools here on Fantasy Labs. Shout out to Fantasy Labs. We'll be taking a look at Fantasy Pros. If you're not new here, you already kind of know what this is. This is like a defense versus position. You could look at the last 7 games, last 15 games, last 30 games. It's pretty helpful to see how many points are given up by some of these defenses, or rebounds, or assists, or 3-point makes, or even fantasy points. You get a little bit of everything with this free little chart here. And of course, we'll be doing a couple of search queries like we typically do using StatMuse. Love StatMuse as well. So pretty high hit rates on Lauri Markkanen and that 3-point prop. Good morning to everybody who's joining this morning. Shout out to Isaac. Happy Wednesday to you. Is it really 9 p.m. Central Time? Like, why is it such a late game? That's super late, right? Weird. I don't know. Nick says, hi, CJ. Sorry I've been missing you for a few days. Thanks for the super chat, by the way, Nick. And I've missed you as well. Love what you do. Thanks for keeping me up to date on Patreon and getting some W's. I appreciate that, Nick. I do what I can, man. Listen, I'm not perfect. I don't get them all right, but sometimes I do get them all right. Last night I got 2 or 3 of them right. So ended up benefiting you fine Patreon folks. All right. Let's go ahead and get down to business here. We're going to start things off by looking at some point props. We're going to be looking at the last 10 games, kind of using that to help guide our research here. And we'll start things off with Jaylen Brown versus the Indiana Pacers. Didn't these teams just play? They did. They did just play. Jaylen Brown had 23.5 points in his last 10 games and 80% hit rate. So you got to love that. Looking at the last 5, 60% hit rate. It's dropped a little bit in the last 5 versus the last 10, but still, we know Jaylen Brown is a bucket getter. He covered his point prop of 23.5 in his last game versus the Indiana Pacers, dropping 26 points against Indy. Now, his track record, if you go back and look, Jaylen Brown typically did not do very good against Indiana. Now, Indiana could be returning both Malcolm Brogdon and Karis LeVert. So I'm a little bit hesitant. If those guys are in the lineup, maybe things become a little bit more difficult for Jaylen Brown. Nonetheless, we talked about him, I think, a couple days ago when they played back on January 10th. We're going to talk about him again. So let's look at this matchup here. He is the shooting guard for the Boston Celtics. So we'll go find the Indiana Pacers. And if I remember correctly, they'd been doing a pretty good job of limiting points. I guess I don't remember that well. 25.6 points per game allowed to shooting guards, actually. So I was wrong on that one. That is the sixth most points given up to the shooting guard position over the last 7 games. So this actually does look like a pretty good matchup, despite his historical failures against Indiana. Let's take a look at it. Jaylen Brown versus Pacers, and then we could do game logs. So you can see at 23.5 points, if we look through his game logs here, that's an under, over. For the first time ever in his career, he actually covered 23.5 points against Indiana. Pretty wild, right? Like, if you were taking Jaylen Brown last game, you probably were taking the under, thinking, there's no way in the world that he's going to go over for the very first time. Look at the history here of him going under. But I say tonight that it could be a little different situation with Malcolm Brogdon and Karis LeVert potentially making their return for Indiana. I think things could get difficult for Jaylen Brown. But I wanted to bring that up because that is a pretty poor track record of covering his 23.5 points versus Indiana. So what are you guys thinking? You thinking he goes back over again for a back-to-back, or are you going to wait and see if the Indiana backcourt is fully healthy or not? I don't know. I might have to take the wait and see approach on this one. Let's go ahead and pull up a projection for you. We're going to be using the action projection tools. Jaylen Brown projected for 26.7 points. So they like him to go over 23.5 once again by about 3.2 points. That's a pretty good edge. That is a pretty good number there. Now we look across 4 different books. He's a betting favorite to go over 23.5 on 4 different sites. Not a huge betting favorite, but a betting favorite nonetheless. So how are you going to approach Jaylen Brown in these points tonight? You taking the over? You waiting and seeing what's going to happen with Jaylen Brown and the rest of the Indiana Pacers backcourt? Maybe one other thing that you could look at, I don't know how much of an impact it makes, but you could say something like Jaylen Brown points without Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart currently a game time decision. We'll remove the Pacers from this. And then you could kind of get an idea of how Jaylen Brown scores without Marcus Smart in the lineup. So that could be something that kind of shakes things up. Just looking at this season, 3 games without Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown scored 34, 26, and 30 points respectively. So he's covered 23.5 points 3 times. 34, 26, and 30 against Washington, Minnesota, and the Clippers respectively. So he's 3 for 3 without Marcus Smart in the lineup. So if Smart sits, maybe Jaylen Brown becomes an even better play. And maybe he goes over for the 2nd time in a row against tonight's opponent, the Indiana Pacers. If you guys have like props or questions or anything you want me to look at, save them to the end and I'll take those. That way I don't have to scroll through the chat and look for them. But I understand you guys are probably just like talking amongst yourselves. But Jaylen Brown, the first guy on the list here to consider. Now, let's look at LeBron James, the king. 30.5 points. He's going up against Sacramento tonight. He just played Sacramento on January 4th. And on January 4th, he covered 30.5 points against the Kings, dropping 31. So a lot of attention's going to Joel Embiid and his streak of 30-point games. LeBron doesn't have a streak of 30-point games, but he's been as hot as any scorer that you can think of in the NBA. We look at the last 5 games here. 4 out of 5, 80% of the time he has covered 30.5 points, averaging 33.4, nearly 3 points more per game than his line tonight at 30.5. And then over the last 10 games, 80% hit rate. So let's dig in a little bit further here on LeBron James facing off against the Sacramento Kings tonight. We'll call LeBron the small forward, and then we'll take a look at the Sacramento Kings over the last 7 games. You can see they're giving up about 19 to 20 points per game, which kind of puts them right in the middle of the pack. It's not a super great matchup, but not a bad matchup either. Not one that we're looking to fade. Now, just for comparison's sake, let's look at the power forward position because sometimes LeBron slides over to the 4 spot and spends some time at power forward. Now, they're giving up more points to power forwards than they all are small forwards over the last 7 games. 23.7, nearly 24 points per game. Now, that's the 7th most in the last 7 games. So it looks like a pretty good matchup here for LeBron James. Had 31 against Sacramento just 8 days ago. So do we think he does it again? Let's dig in a little bit deeper here. We'll get a projection for you on the King. 27.7. 27.7, folks. So the action projection tool liking the under on LeBron James, actually. Now, here's something interesting, and this is kind of what led me to both Lou Dort yesterday over points and DeAndre Ayton over points. I identified both of those players as having value. What I mean by that is PrizePicks had Lou Dort up at 14.5 points, but I saw him at 16.5 points on a couple of different sports books out there. So I saw 2 points of difference on that Lou Dort point line, which is why I was like, well, let's just click the over on Lou Dort. Bradley Beal is now out of the equation. The Wizards and the Thunder should be a more close and competitive game without Beal in there. I'm not afraid. Let's click the over on Lou Dort, and it ended up working out. And the same thing with DeAndre Ayton. He was at 15.5 points on a lot of different sites, but 14.5 over on PrizePicks. So once again, I kind of looked at the matchup. I'm like, DeAndre Ayton, he's a pretty big fella. Who's going to stop him on the Raptors? Is it Khem Birch? Khem Birch ended up starting, by the way, for the Raptors. Khem Birch, not really worried about Khem Birch, all right? Listen, we had to sweat that DeAndre Ayton prop to the very end, to the final seconds, but it ended up working out. So I bring that point up to mention this. He's at 30.5 on PrizePicks, but he's at 31.5 on a couple of different sites right now. Now, a site like FanDuel, for instance, at 31.5, minus 118 betting favorite to go over 31.5. So they're taking it, the over that is, at 31.5. So if they're taking it at 31.5, maybe we should be taking it at 30.5. We're getting a point of value here, a lower number on LeBron James. Okay? That's the kind of stuff you need to be looking out for. Looking for that value. There you go. Some other guys worth considering. I don't know if you necessarily want to go here or not, but Dwight Powell of the Dallas Mavericks at 7.5 points. This guy's been hitting his point prop 80% of the time. 80% of the time. So we look at the game logs here. Last 10 games, 80%. Last 5 games, 100% hit rate. We already talked about no Kristaps Porzingis for Dallas, so guys like Dwight Powell will be thrusted into larger roles, have an expanded role on the team. Do we think Dwight Powell keeps it going tonight against the New York Knicks? I don't know. This game does look like it's going to be a pretty low-scoring game, so I'm a little hesitant when the game is going to be low-scoring like that, but the 7.5 points has been easy street here for Dwight Powell, averaging 11.4 points per game over the last 5 games. So let's go to the center position here. We'll look at the points that the New York Knicks are allowing to opposing big men. Now, it's kind of a tricky dynamic with Dallas right now because they're starting both Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber. Both of these guys, in my opinion, can be power forwards or centers. They're both bigs, right? So there's not really a defined position. They're both just interior players, we'll call them. Front court players, right? Anyway, we go down to the bottom of the barrel here. The New York Knicks giving up the second fewest points per game to opposing centers over the last 7 games, 15.2 points. Which, when you look at the 7.5 points, he only needs 8 points to go over. So we don't need him to get 15 points. We just need 8 out of him. So despite it being the second toughest matchup, I still think that there's a little room here for Dwight Powell to get it done. That's kind of how I'm approaching it. Now, I talked about these guys being kind of positionless, both him and Kleber. They're both like power forward / centers. Let's just go look at the New York Knicks and see how many points they've allowed over the last 7 games to opposing power forwards. And it's a little better, 19.3 points. 19.3 points. So I think that there is some upside here for Dwight Powell. If he can find, 8 points from a team that's given up 19 and 15 to the power forward and center position over the last 7 games, it's doable. It's doable in my opinion. Let's go ahead and type in Powell's name. Not the sexiest name out there, but we're going to look at it anyway because the high hit rates cannot be ignored. 9.1 projected points versus 7.5 over on PrizePicks. And we're looking at him across the board here on 4 different sites. He's a betting favorite to cover 7.5 points. Do you guys trust Dwight Powell? Do you guys trust Dwight Powell to cover 7.5 points? He's done so in 5 straight games. He's done so in 8 out of his last 10 games versus a variety of different opponents. But the New York Knicks interior, one of the toughest right now in terms of limiting bigs and their point props. What do you think, folks? I don't know. On the flip side of this game, this other big goof right here. Mitchell Robinson at 7.5 points. He's another guy over the last 10 games who has covered his point prop at a 70% clip. And if we look at the last 5 games, an 80% clip. So not quite as sweet as Dwight Powell, but they're really similar in terms of their play style, I would say. They're not guys who are going to take a lot of shots. They're not going to be high volume shooters. They're not going to have, 10, 15 field goal attempts. They're going to get theirs by getting offensive rebounds, pick and rolls, lobs, stuff like that. But again, the guy needs just 8 points. I'm a little worried, like I said, of the game total here. I'm a little worried of the matchup against Dallas. Let's go ahead and take a look at this matchup for Mitchell Robinson. Maybe he has an easier time versus Dallas than Dwight Powell and company has against New York. Dallas has given up about 22 points per game to opposing centers over their last 7 games. So that puts them like middle of the pack, but down toward the bottom of the middle. So it's not, the easiest matchup in the world. He's not like the Houston Rockets, who are giving up over 35 points per game to the center position. But again, he just needs to find 8 points. Do we think he does it in a low-scoring game against Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber? I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe he does. Let's go ahead and take a look at his projection, though. 9.3 projected points. So again, kind of falls in line with what we saw with Dwight Powell. Powell was also projected for about 9 points. At 7.5 points, though, on a couple of different sites, he is a betting favorite right now to go under 7.5. So the numbers looking pretty decent for both Powell and Mitchell Robinson. But, you never feel great about taking overs on guys like that. Here's another guy that might step into a bigger role tonight. No Kristaps Porzingis. What does that mean for Dorian Finney-Smith? Well, I can tell you this. I've taken him in the past, and the guy gets into foul trouble sometimes. Do you think he gets into foul trouble tonight guarding the likes of R.J. Barrett, Evan Fournier? Possibly. Maybe. He needs to keep his hands to himself. I'll tell you that. But Dorian Finney-Smith over his last 10 games, 70% hit rate at just 10.5 points. I believe he was at 12.5 points a couple days ago, if I'm not mistaken on that. So at 10.5, we're getting a little bit of a softer line here on DFS. Definitely more doable. You can see he's got a lot of games where he comes really close, but it's been death by hook at 10.5 points. 10 against OKC, 10 against Denver, 10 against Houston. So let's take a look at Dorian Finney-Smith. He is the starting small forward with Luka and Brunson projected to man the backcourt. Dorian Finney-Smith slots right in there at the small forward position. So he's taking on the New York Knicks tonight. We talked about this game already, being kind of low scoring, maybe a slow pace type of game. Going down and looking for the Knicks, they're giving up about 19 points per game to opposing small forwards. So there's some upside here. There's some room for Dorian Finney-Smith to get it done at 10.5 points. Now, what you could do in a situation like this, you can go here and you could go Finney-Smith points without Porzingis game logs. Look at those typing skills. Not a single mistake. Not a single typo. Looking at the game logs here, you can kind of see how Dorian Finney-Smith has done at 10.5 points without Kristaps Porzingis in the lineup. Kind of gives you an idea, right? It's not a perfect science by any means, but you kind of go through here and you look at the hit rates versus how many games he's played, and kind of helps you with your research a little bit. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and pull up a projection for Dorian Finney-Smith. I got him going for 11.7 points, which again is more than 10.5, meaning we should be thinking about possibly going over on this prop if we're trusting in the action projection tools. But on 4 different books, 4 different sites, he is a betting favorite to go under 10.5. So which way are you leaning on this prop? You have to dig in a little deeper sometimes. You can't just fall in love with the 5-game hit rates or the game logs. You have to go a little bit further. There's a lot of players that are in and out of these lineups, and these game logs, these 5, 10-game game logs, can be deceiving. They can be deceiving. You have to consider who was in and who was out for some of these guys. Or for some of these teams, rather, when these guys were, posted up at 10.5 points or whatever. So just consider those things. All right, let's talk about some rebounds. We talked enough about points. Hopefully a couple of those stand out and you're starting to think a little differently about how you approach some of these points props. So let's look at these rebounders here. One guy that's standing out, let's see if he's up on the board. He is not. He is not up on the board. Lauri Markkanen at 4.5 rebounds. We talked about Lauri Markkanen over his 1.5 3-point make prop. Lauri Markkanen at 4.5 rebounds has covered his prop in 90% of the last 10 games. He is not up on the PrizePicks board, but if you could get him somewhere else at 4.5 rebounds, think about it a little bit. Think about some Lauri Markkanen over 4.5 rebounds. Michael Conley Jr. is another guy who is not up on the board, but at 3.5 rebounds, Mike Conley Jr., 90% of the time in the last 10 games, he's covered 3.5 rebounds. Mason Plumlee of the Charlotte Hornets, is he up on the board? He is. The reason we're talking Mason Plumlee is because in the last 10 games, 80% hit rate. Last 5 games, it's dropped a little bit. It's down to 60%, and he's averaging 5.8 rebounds per game. So you could kind of get an idea of Mason Plumlee here. He's got 9 rebound upside against a tough Milwaukee team, 7 rebounds against his former team, the Detroit Pistons, 7 against Washington. But he struggled against Phoenix. Struggled in the first game against the Milwaukee Bucks. So, not the most consistent guy on the block in the last 5 games. Let's go ahead and pull up a matchup here for Mr. Mason Plumlee. He's going up against Philadelphia tonight, Joel Embiid. Not a guy that is easy to rebound against. We got to go all the way down here. They're giving up just 13.6 rebounds. So despite the high hit rates, we also have to consider and factor in the matchup here against Joel Embiid. They're giving up the 6th fewest rebounds per game to opposing centers. They're giving up 13.6 boards, which means at 5.5 boards, there's a little bit of upside here. There is some wiggle room for Mason Plumlee to find 6 rebounds. Now, what you can do in a situation like this, head back over to StatMuse. You type in Mason Plumlee rebounds versus Joel Embiid game logs. Just showing you different ways that you can utilize StatMuse here. Now, over the course of his career, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 career games against Joel Embiid. At 5.5 rebounds, he has only covered this prop once, twice, 3 times. So less than 50% hit rate. The last time he did cover this prop was May 8th of last year. As a member of the Detroit Pistons, he pulled in 6 rebounds. Barely got it done. So we do not have any game logs of Mason Plumlee as a member of the Charlotte Hornets versus Joel Embiid on the 76ers. We do not have any previous game logs. But kind of gives you an idea. It could be a tough matchup here. We think it's going to be a tough matchup, right? So when you think it's going to be a tough matchup, maybe you go ahead and you slap the under. It's okay to hit under sometimes. Now I've got Plumlee projected for 8.2 rebounds. And at 5.5 boards, 3 different books, they're betting the over. Of course they'd be betting the over. Of course he'd be projected to go over 5.5 rebounds. Why wouldn't he in a terrible matchup? Why wouldn't he be projected to go over in a situation against a player like Joel Embiid where he's gone under most of the time? Just, makes all the sense in the world, right? Sometimes these projections and the way that the money's coming in from the betting public can cloud your judgment, can confuse you, and make a situation murky or difficult, right? And that's kind of what we're seeing here. We're seeing a guy with an 80% hit rate at 5.5 boards over his last 10 games, 60% hit rate in his last 5 games, who's been averaging more than 5.5 rebounds at 5.8. We know the matchup's going to be tough, but for some reason, everybody's putting their money on the over at 5.5. Everybody, maybe they're looking at the projections at 8.2 projected rebounds, and they're getting carried away with that. I mean, the game will be high scoring. The spread isn't something ridiculous like 10 points. So maybe it stays close long enough for Mason Plumlee to find 6 boards. I don't know. Maybe Mason Plumlee gets into foul trouble against Joel Embiid and finds himself glued to the bench all night. Anything can happen because it's the NBA. Anything can happen, right? All right, Jaylen Brown is another guy worth talking about. 70% hit rate at 6.5 boards over the last 10 games. Last 10 games, 70% hit rate. Last 5 games, 80% hit rate. He's averaging 10 rebounds per game. Now, the last time he took the court against Indiana was January 10th, just 2 days ago, and he had 15 big rebounds. 15 big rebounds. We already talked about it a little bit. We've got to see what's happening with both Malcolm Brogdon and Karis LeVert. Are they in? Are they out? And if they are in or out, how does that impact Jaylen Brown? Another guy we got to think about is the Boston Celtics' very own Marcus Smart. If he's in or out, how does that impact Jaylen Brown's rebounds? Lots of different moving parts and pieces, lots of news to stay on top of from this game. Okay? I don't know that Jaylen Brown's going to have another 15 rebound game, but we don't even need 15. Listen, if he wanted to do half that amount and pull in 7, 8 rebounds, we'd be just fine with that. If we're considering taking the over, right? We would be fine. We would love that. 7 or 8 rebounds. All right, let's go look at the matchup here. Shooting guards, rebounds, Indiana Pacers. See how many boards the Pacers are giving up per game to the shooting guard position. My eyes, there we go. 6.3 rebounds. 6.3 rebounds. So on paper, it looks like it could be a tough ask for Jaylen Brown to pull in 7 or more boards. But listen, he had 15 in the last game. Again, I don't expect him to have 15 again, but If he gets 7, we're happy campers if we take the over. So let's pull up a projection for Jaylen Brown, who has been getting on the boards, guys. He's been getting on the boards. 7.3 projected boards tonight. We got 3 different sites. 2 out of the 3, we're seeing action on the over. Minus 120, minus 125 betting favorite to cover the 6.5 rebounds. You think Jaylen Brown does it again? Are you going to, again, take the wait-and-see approach and see about the Marcus Smart news, the Karis LeVert news, the Malcolm Brogdon news? I don't know. Another guy maybe worth considering, Julius Randle. Going up against the Dallas Mavericks. We talked about the matchup already. He's going to be facing off against Dwight Powell. He's going to be facing off against Maxi Kleber in a low-scoring game. Does that mean that there will be a lot of missed shots? Maybe that means that there will be a lot of missed shots and that Julius Randle will be able to potentially find more rebounds. I can tell you this, he's had his ups and downs, his struggles in terms of rebounding the basketball, but lately it's been more good than bad. Over the last 10 games, 70% of those games, he has covered 9.5 boards. And we look at the game logs here in the last 5, 80% hit rate, and he's averaging 11.6 boards, nearly 12 rebounds per game. So he's showing tremendous upside here. 16 boards, 12 boards in a couple of games back to back. So he could definitely get it done here. He's going to have his work cut out for him, though, going up against this front court. Now, he plays mostly at the power forward position. If we go look at this matchup over the last 7 games, Dallas giving up the 4th fewest rebounds per game to opposing power forwards in the last 7 games. Tough matchup. 9.2 rebounds given up. Now, sometimes he finds his way over to the center spot and plays the 5. Let's see how Dallas does against centers in terms of rebounds. 12.9. 12.9 rebounds, which is still the 4th fewest. So it's going to be a difficult matchup here for Julius Randle. We got a little, I don't know, is that a sticker? I guess that's a sticker. I don't know if it's a super chat or a sticker, but JC's dropping a little Woj bomb. We'll call it the JC bomb. Shout out to JC from CJ. He says Marcus Smart is out. He is officially out. No Marcus Smart. So there you go. This just in. Marcus Smart is out. So maybe we like those Jaylen Brown points. We talked about Jaylen Brown in every game this season with Marcus Smart out of the lineup. He has covered 23.5 points. Could be a good call. What do you guys think? He dropped 26 against Indiana just 1 game ago. Anyway, back to Julius Randle. We're looking at the matchup here. This could be an under option for you. It could be an under option. Dallas doing a pretty good job clamping down the rebounds at both the power forward and center positions. So we're going to head on over here, pull up a projection for Julius Randle. Got him projected for 10 boards. Not really seeing any action, any juice on the over or the under for Julius Randle right now at 9.5 boards. So not really going to get any information from that. So there you go. Something to think about. Could be a tough one. Could be an under option for you against a tough Dallas Mavericks team in a low-scoring game. Slow-paced, low-scoring game. Okay, cool. We talked about the teammate there, Jaylen Brown. We look at Jason Tatum's rebounds as well. Over the last 5 games, 60% hit rate, 7.6 rebounds. He's cutting it pretty close with this average of 7.6 versus the 7.5. Jason Tatum, though, in the last 10 games, a 70% hit rate at 7.5 boards. So 70% in the last 10, 60% in the last 5. He's been getting it done more often than not in a 10-game sample and a 5-game sample. So let's look at the matchup here. We talked about Jaylen Brown being potentially in a good spot to pull in some rebounds. Jason Tatum slots in at the small forward position. He's going up against Indiana tonight, a rematch. They're giving up about 8.3 rebounds per game, which puts them just outside the top 10 most rebounds allowed over the last 7 games. Now, he did pull in 12 rebounds against Indiana. So Jaylen Brown had 15 boards against Indiana 1 game ago, and Jason Tatum had 12 rebounds. Both of these guys, both of their wing players had double-digit rebounds. And I guess guys like Al Horford and Robert Williams were left out to dry. Horford had 7. Robert Williams had 12. Man, were there just like 1,000 missed shots in this game? All of these guys crushed their rebound props. That's nuts. All 4 of these Celtics. Interesting. All right, let's pull a projection up on Jason Tatum. I got him projected for 8.8 rebounds, but on 3 different books, 3 different sites, he is a betting favorite to go under 7.5 boards, minus 130, minus 125 betting odds. So, I don't know. Out of Tatum and Brown, who are you guys liking more? Probably Brown for me, just because he's coming in at 6.5 versus the 7.5. And his hit rates are just as good over the last 10 games and even better in the last 5. So maybe I feel a little more confident about Jaylen Brown. This is another situation where you could go over here to StatMuse. You could type in Jaylen Brown rebounds without Marcus Smart game logs. And then you kind of get an idea of how many times Jaylen Brown has hit his rebound prop without a guy like Marcus Smart around. Maybe it helps you out in your decision making. His last few games here, 3 games without Marcus Smart this season, 6 rebounds, 10 rebounds, and 8 rebounds. So he's covered in 2 out of 3 games. And you could do the same thing here with his teammate, Jason Tatum. In 1 game this season without Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum back on October 30th pulls in 15 boards in 46 minutes of court time. That game must have went to overtime. But you can also kind of get a look at his game logs without Marcus Smart over the years, right? Kind of helps you with your decision making just a little bit. So no Marcus Smart. Brown Town all the way, says Andrew Vihande. Vihande. Chris says 60 likes. Come on, people. Come on, people. Slap the like button if you're getting any value out of this live stream. Let's go ahead and move over to the assist category while you guys are figuring out where the like button is. I could show you if you want me to. I'll show you where that like button is if you're having a hard time finding it. Let's look at some dime droppers here. RJ Barrett's up at the top of the list here. He is up on the board for the New York Knicks at 2.5 assists. In the last 10 games, 70% hit rate for RJ Barrett. Love that hit rate. 70% in the last 10. Over the last 5 games, an 80% hit rate. 3.6 dimes dropped. That's 1.1 more than his line today at 2.5. He's facing off against the Dallas Mavericks. So let's go ahead and take a look at this matchup here. We'll call RJ Barrett the shooting guard and roll with that. Dallas giving up the most assists per game to the shooting guard position over the last 7 games. 6.6 dimes. We need 3 out of this guy. Loving it. Loving the upside here against the Dallas Mavericks in this matchup. Now maybe you call RJ Barrett the small forward. I get it. Tomato, tomato, right? But even then, 4.3 assists allowed by Dallas, which is the 5th most. So they're giving up the 1st most assists in the last 7 games to shooting guards, the 5th most assists per game to the small forward position. Do we think RJ Barrett finds 3 assists? I mean, it seems very doable. Very high likelihood that this happens. Let's go get a projection for you on RJ Barrett. He's projected for 2.8 assists, guys. This is a lot closer to 3 assists than it is 2 assists. So I'm feeling pretty good here about an over. And then I got him on 3 different sites, 3 different books. Minus 130, minus 130, minus 120. So they're liking the over on RJ Barrett. The betting public's taking the over. You got to love this matchup, right? Got to love this matchup. 80% hit rate, though, in the last 5. Loving that, man. It's looking good. Liking some RJ Barrett. Thank you, Brian, for slapping that like button. Appreciate you. 81 likes. Oh, man. JC and company, the folks that are... cheering me on and encouraging the rest of you viewers to hit the like button. I appreciate you folks. Love it. David's dropping a little bit of nuggets of his own here. David's saying Al Horford, 10, 9, and 10 rebounds without Smart this year. That's a pretty good stat. I can get down with that. I think some of these Celtics are going to definitely benefit from Marcus Smart's absence, from what it seems like. So, lots of good high hit rate players in this Boston Celtics game. But again, we got to look at the Indiana side. It's going to be tough with Brogdon and LeVert in. Now, if those guys are both out again and we get kind of a rinse and repeat type of game, Boston versus Indiana, same cast of characters, different day, same group of faces, then yeah, maybe you feel a little bit more confident. But when big impact players like Brogdon and LeVert are in the lineup, it's gonna shake things up. It's inevitable, right? So some other assisters on the board. Do we trust Jalen Brunson? His hit rates say you can trust me. He's got a face. Look at this guy's face. Look at his face right here. He's got a face that says you could trust me. But I don't know if I trust him. I don't know if I trust this guy because a lot of these assists came with Luka Doncic out of the lineup. Now he's sharing the backcourt with Luka. There's no Kristaps Porzingis. So I don't know if I trust Jalen Brunson quite as much. 4.5 assists over the last 10 games, 70% hit rate. This is where I get into my stand on my soapbox and I say, look a little bit further than the last 10 games, last 5-game hit rates. You got to go back and see who was in the lineup for Dallas when this guy was hitting his assist prop. Who was out of the lineup for Dallas? Was Luka there or not? Was Kristaps in or out? You got to, dig a little deeper. You can't just look at little Jalen Brunson's face here with his fluffy hair and say, man, that's a guy that I could trust at 4.5 assists because 70% of his last 10 games, he's been getting it done. Yeah, hold your horses because in the last 5 games, he's at a 40% hit rate. And a few of these games were with Luka, okay? He did have 10 dimes against Houston, but that's Houston. And I think Luka might have been out for that one. Anyway, I rest my case. Let's go look at this matchup against the New York Knicks tonight. See how many assists the Knicks are giving up to opposing shooting guards. I'm going to call him a shooting guard with Luka playing the point. All right. We've talked about it in previous shows here. The NBA is so positionless nowadays. You could call him a point guard, Luka small forward or shooting guard. I don't know. It gets crazy. 5.4 assists per game in the last 6 games the New York Knicks are allowing to opposing shooting guards. So 5.4, obviously more than 4.5. There's some upside, a little bit of wiggle room for him to get it done. Now, if you want to call him a point guard, okay, fine. You've twisted my arm. We can go ahead and we can call him a point guard if you want. We go find the New York Knicks. They're giving up... where are they? Sometimes it's harder to find them. Oh, wow, because they're all the way down at the bottom. They're giving up 5.6 assists per game to opposing point guards. So 5.6 to the point guard spot and 5.4 to the shooting guard spot. So pretty much the same if you're a point guard or shooting guard. Not really seeing one matchup being a whole lot better than the other. We go in, we type in Brunson's name, 5.8 projected assists, 3 different sites, minus 140 some places, minus 135 in other places, and minus 125 to go over at the moment, to go over 4.5 assists. Interesting. I don't think I trust it. Not with Luka in the backcourt. Don't love it. All right, who else we got here? De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox at 4.5 assists. Are you on the PrizePicks board? He is not up on the board. De'Aaron Fox at 4.5 assists, though, 70% hit rate over the last 10 games. So he's definitely one that is worth looking into. Oh, there he is. Shoot, almost missed him. 4.5 assists over the last 10 games, 70% hit rate. 4.5 assists in the last 5 games is 60% hit rate. But for me, it's always so painfully difficult to figure out who's going to be the scorer tonight. Is it De'Aaron Fox? Is it Tyrese Halliburton? Or who's going to be dropping dimes? Is it De'Aaron Fox or is it Tyrese Halliburton? So I don't know. For that reason, I want to avoid both of these guys. I mean, more often than not, it looks like it's Tyrese Halliburton as the setup man. But it's been up or down for both of these guys. Hard to figure it out. But let's go ahead and just pull projections up for both of them. I don't want to spend too much time trying to figure out who the heck it's going to be tonight. De'Aaron Fox, 5.8 assists. He's a betting favorite on 3 different books right now to go over. And if you're interested in Halliburton, 7.1. So they like him to go under. But I want to point out that he is at 8.5 assists on 3 different books. And he's at 7.5 on PrizePicks. But at 8.5... minus 140 betting favorite to go under on all 3 sites at 8.5. But again, 1 assist different here on PrizePicks. So a little bit of a value play at 7.5. So maybe you lean toward the over and hope for the best with that 1 assist value. Allergies. Gotta love allergies. Let's go ahead and move things over. We talked enough about assists. Let's look at some three-point shooters. Who's been taking and making the most threes? We got to figure it out. Harrison Barnes at 1.5 would be lovely today, but I'm not seeing him up on the PrizePicks board. 90% of his last 10 games, 9 out of 10 games, he's covered 1.5 3-point makes, making 2 or more in 90% of those games. Another guy that's actually been getting it done here, Dorian Finney-Smith. Dorian Finney-Smith, over his last 10 games, 80% hit rate. Looking at the last 5, 60% hit rate. Not quite as sweet, but still pretty decent. Pretty decent. He's going up against the Knicks tonight. We're talking a lot about the Celtics, the Knicks, and the Mavericks. Kind of interesting. All of these guys are in like very high hit rate spots, or they have been hitting their props. But I don't know that I love the Dallas-New York game, being that it's so low scoring. I don't know. Maybe these guys, despite their high hit rates, maybe they're set up for failure tonight. I don't know. But it seems like we're talking about a lot about the Mavericks, the Knicks, Celtics. I don't know. Dorian Finney-Smith against the Knicks. They're giving up 3 3-point makes to opposing small forwards over the last 7 games. 3 3-point makes. He needs 2. Do you think he finds 2 out of the 3 that they give up on average? Maybe he can. I got him projected for 2.3 makes. And he's a betting favorite at -135 and a betting favorite at -140 to go over. So we talked about his points earlier. But maybe if you don't like his points, maybe you go with his 3-point prop and you like that one a little bit more. Could be some options. The first person that I mentioned for threes, Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes at 1.5 3-point makes. 90% hit rate. So keep an eye out on Harrison Barnes. Another guy that's been hitting at a pretty high hit rate, Terry Rozier at 3.5 3-point makes, 80% hit rate. Not up on the board tonight, though. But if you could get him somewhere else, he's worth considering. Evan Fournier, 2.5 3-point makes, 70% hit rate in the last 10 games. Of course, we just saw him back on January 6th go absolutely nuclear on the Boston Celtics in a, I guess you'd call it a revenge game, right? Former Boston Celtic dropped 10 triples on their heads. Comes back the next game, drops 4 against San Antonio 2 days ago. And he had 4 on Toronto back on January 2nd. So 60% hit rate at 2.5 3-point makes. Again, another Knick. Another Maverick. Like these Knicks and Mavericks and Celtics all have these super high hit rates, right? Here we are again, talking about another New York Knicks player. Let's go see how many threes over the last 7 games that the Dallas Mavericks are giving up to the shooting guard position. Got to go all the way down. They're giving up just 2.5, third fewest. So it's going to be a tough matchup if you consider Fournier to be a shooting guard, if you consider Fournier to be a small forward. New York Knicks giving up about 3 3-point makes to the Dallas Mavericks. We're talking about the Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks are giving up 2.2 3-point makes to opposing small forwards. So it's going to be a tough matchup if you're a shooting guard or small forward against the Dallas Mavericks. We already talked about the game being low scoring. So maybe this is a spot we go under on Evan Fournier. With a low scoring game, difficult matchups. Got him projected for 2.4. That's less than 2.5. One sportsbook has him as a betting favorite right now to go over. 2.5 3-point makes. So that's another guy to consider. LeBron James, not up on the board. But at 2.5 3-point makes 70% of the time. In the last 10 games, he has gone over. We've already talked about Lauri Markkanen. We went off script to start the show and talked about Lauri Markkanen over 1.5 3-point makes versus Utah. Seems to do better with Jarrett Allen in the lineup for whatever reason. Maybe there's more spacing on the floor or something. Maybe there's less emphasis by the defense on Lauri Markkanen with Jarrett Allen around. Don't know why, but it seems like he does better with Jarrett Allen. He's also got this weird little holding pattern. If you look at his last 5 games, over, under, over, under, over. Is today an under? For whatever weird reason, if you believe in patterns or that sort of thing. I think Malik Monk is probably worth looking at. He's coming off of a very bad game against the Memphis Grizzlies, a very, very bad game. The last time he faced Sacramento, he dropped 6 3-pointers on them. 6 3-pointers on them. You know I like going back to a prop after a flop. And Malik Monk flopped in the biggest way back on January 9th against the Memphis Grizzlies. He's got a couple of days of rest on him now, 3 days rest. He just needs, 3-point makes? Again, dropped 6 on Sacramento back on January 4th. Over the last 10 games, it's been not so good. It's been a 50% hit rate, right? Last 5 games, much better though, 60% hit rate. But he doesn't typically have 2 dud games in a row. So love the matchup here against Sacramento. This could be a get-right spot for Malik Monk to return to his form of 7 and 6 and 4 3-point makes like he had the previous 3 games before that dud against the Memphis Grizzlies. So I think he's worth considering. Shooting guard for the Los Angeles Lakers. We're going to go see how many 3-point makes are given up by Sacramento to opposing 2 guards over the last 7 games. The matchup doesn't look great. 2.5 for Malik Monk. Let's just look at the other wing spot, the small forward position. Sacramento, how many threes are they giving up there? 2.3. So the matchup on paper doesn't look great, but we have a game from January 4th where we see him splash 6 triples. He's got 6 and 7 3-point upside. He needs just 3 tonight in a high-scoring, close and competitive game. So I think it's doable. Let's go ahead and put in a projection from Monk. I got him projected for 3 3-point makes. 3 3-point makes. But at 2.5 3-point makes, he is a betting favorite to go under tonight on your favorite sports book. I don't know if I'm buying that. I'm kind of thinking maybe Malik Monk is in a bounce back spot. What do you guys think? Last but not least, let's look at some free throw makes. We'll do this real quick and dirty. This guy right here should always be at the top of your list when it comes to free throw makes. He is the free throw make king, so to speak. He gets Mason Plumlee tonight, the Charlotte Hornets tonight. The game is expected to be high scoring, close, competitive. He's averaging 9.2 over the last 5 games. 11 and 13 in his last 2 games. Had 9 against Brooklyn. That was a push. So really, he's hit 9 or more and 60%. But this guy is always going to be the first one that comes to mind. Let's just do something real quick for fun. Joel Embiid, free throws made versus Mason Plumlee. Game logs. Not what I was expecting to see here, huh? Not looking great. All right. Let's switch it up a little bit then. Joel Embiid free throws made versus Hornets game logs. A little bit better there. 15, 12, 9, 13, 19, 12. What are we thinking? Joel Embiid's definitely going to have the ball in his hands. I think he's definitely going to have a pretty good matchup here against old Mason Plumlee. So maybe he's worth thinking about. I think Luka, as long as Kristaps Porzingis is out, he should also be somebody worth considering. Luka Doncic. Kind of look at him. Luka Doncic. Free throw makes versus Knicks game logs. Nothing spectacular. I mean, he's covered in like 3 games out of 6? So 50% hit rate. I don't know. What do you think? Julius Randle? Maybe he's man. Frustrating part about him is sometimes he likes to hang out at the 3-point line, which is super frustrating. This dude right here, he gets to the line quite a bit. Sometimes he just puts up like massive bricks from the free throw line, which I think was the case against Boston here on January 8th. He missed a lot of free throws in that game. But maybe he kind of gets right. I mean, 4 out of the last 5 games, he's gone over 2.5 3-point makes. We know Donovan Mitchell will have the ball in his hands quite a bit going up against Cleveland. Maybe he gets it done against the Cavs. So those are some options worth considering. Your high usage guys, your guys who are going to be the designated free throw shooters in a technical foul situation, the guys who are going to be your designated free throw shooters when the game is on the line and there's an intentional foul. They're going to get the ball in their hands and go to the free throw line. Those are the type of guys I like to go for. High usage, the best free throw shooter on the team, that sort of thing. Kyle Lowry, I think maybe he's worth considering with all the injuries to Miami. Going up against Atlanta, he's got some games here recently where he's covered 2.5 free throw makes. So I think that's pretty much about it. Good morning, Seth. What's happening? If you guys have questions, this is a good time for you to leave those questions for me. Appreciate everybody leaving the thumbs up, liking the live stream. As I mentioned yesterday, we went over 200 likes, folks. Over 200 likes. If we could get that every single day, that would be incredible. That would be something amazing. Amazing. Let's see what you guys are talking about, though. Dub K123 is liking Yurtseven. Over 35.5 fantasy points tonight. Taking on the Atlanta Hawks. Do we know if Clint Capella's in or out yet, folks? Because for me, Clint Capella, potentially very impactful news. Is Clint Capella in or out tonight, guys? Before I jump on Omer Yurtseven, I want to know if Clint Capella's in or out. But Yurtseven's at 35.5 fantasy points. Looking at this matchup against Atlanta, you come over here and you find the Hawks. They're giving up the third most fantasy points per game to opposing centers. So yes, I really like this matchup. Looks good. Looks pretty darn good. You heard Clint Capella is out. He's doubtful, likely to be out. Even better. Even better. Yeah, I think Yurtseven at 35.5 is looking kind of low here. 4 out of the last 5 games he's covered. Atlanta's giving up the third most fantasy points per game to the center position over the last 7 games. Plus matchup for shizzle. For sure. I've got Omer projected for 35.3 fantasy points. He's got a ceiling of 51.2 fantasy points. And his rating is 86.9, nearly an 87, which is pretty high. 100 being the highest. So, yes, Yurtseven definitely in play, especially without Clint Capella. Who else are you guys talking about? Seth Curry over on 27 fantasy points. Well, Seth Curry was also one of the guys that was a game time decision. Kind of want to wait and see on the news before I put him in any entries. But if we look at the 27 fantasy points for Seth Curry, 3 out of the last 5 games, he is covered. He's averaging nearly 34 fantasy points per game. He's going up against the Charlotte Hornets. Now, if we really want to go down the rabbit hole here, his dad, Del Curry, once upon a time played for the Charlotte Hornets. Do you think Seth Curry is motivated or interested in doing better or worse against the Charlotte Hornets? Or is it something that doesn't really come across his mind or radar? I'm pretty sure he grew up in the Charlotte area. I don't know if this game is in Charlotte or in Philly, but I don't know. Maybe there's a little something extra there. Charlotte, however, against shooting guards, if you consider him to be a shooting guard, not a great plus matchup, kind of a neutral matchup. If you want to call him more the point guard for Philly. Charlotte giving up 42.7 fantasy points. So there's definitely some upside, some room here for Seth Curry to exceed 27 fantasy points. But the matchup on paper doesn't look great. In other words, if you look at the Clippers, they're giving up about 58 fantasy points versus Charlotte, who's giving up about 42. So you kind of see the difference there. But still, nonetheless, not a bad matchup. Not a bad matchup. Seth Curry, got him going for about 27.4 fantasy points. But he is questionable. So keep an eye on his status. Sean wants to know Franz Wagner over on boards. Franz Wagner over on boards. So here's where something else, another tool that I've talked about in the past, can come into play. Court IQ. And what we'll do with this is we'll go to the Orlando Magic. And then what we can do from here is go to this blog, which is very helpful if you haven't ever checked it out. It's by Underdog. We'll go on down to the Orlando Magic. We'll look and see who's in and who's out. So the main guys, Wendell Carter Jr., Mo Bamba, both out. So those are probably the two that you want to definitely take off more than anyone else. So we'll take off Wendell Carter, and we'll take off Mo Bamba. And then we'll go down to run query. Now, when this comes back, you'll want to make sure that you click on FanDuel. And then you're looking at Orlando's usage this season. Now, you could look at this as a per 36 minute. Or if you want to get even more technical, you could look at per minute. And then you could go to a site like Fantasy Labs and figure out how many minutes Franz Wagner's projected to play, which is 32 tonight. Well, let me click on it, but 32 projected minutes. So anyway, what you would do in that case is you would look at the per minute, go to total rebounds, find Franz Wagner, 0.17. So, and then you would multiply 0.17 by the amount of projected minutes that he's going to get tonight, which was 32. So I'll just do that for you real quick. I'm just showing you kind of how you can maybe get a better idea. 0.17 times 32, that's about 5.4 rebounds for Franz Wagner. Let me guess, his line's probably at like 5.5. Yeah. Okay. See? So they're onto our tricks. But that's kind of how you can kind of gauge or get an idea. So this will show you, in various sample sizes here. 327 minutes. Chuma Okeke has been on the floor without Mo Bamba, without Wendell Carter Jr. RJ Hampton, 303 minutes of court time without Mo Bamba, without Wendell Carter Jr. Franz Wagner, 265 minutes without those guys in the lineup. But that's kind of how you can use court IQ. You can take off players that will not be playing tonight, and you can kind of see who benefits the most. You can even come down here, look at the per 36 minute differentials. So who sees the biggest bump in usage? Blue being the best. So Terrence Ross and Cole Anthony get the most usage with Carter and Bamba off the floor. And then it's the likes of Gary Harris, Robin Lopez. Then you get down to the Wagners, Ford, Hampton, Mo Wagner. So, very helpful tool. Free Court IQ by Roto Grinders. So I'm not seeing enough of an edge on Franz Wagner now that we went down that rabbit hole. And I don't even have a projection for him at the moment. Let's refresh the page. Maybe they've added more projections, more props. There we go. Got him projected for 4.6 rebounds, but two different books. He is a betting favorite to go over. Allergies. So there you go. That's how you kind of can answer those questions, Sean, using a tool like Court IQ. Dat Stud Killa Cam wants to know, what do you think about the under on rebounds for Christian Wood and Jason Collins? Is that Jason Collins? You want to go under on Christian Wood? Well, I could see why you'd want to go under on him. One game out of his last 5, he has gone over 10 rebounds. Had 11 against Washington. Facing off against San Antonio, he's going up against my man Jakob Poeltl. Wood, pretty much the center, right? I think that's fair to say. Let's see how the San Antonio Spurs have done. They've given up about 16.8 rebounds per game over the last 7 games, which puts them 10th most. It's a pretty good matchup here for Wood. If he ever wanted to get right in terms of rebounds, this might be the time to do so against the Spurs team, giving up nearly 17 boards per game to the center position. Now, I also like to look at the other front court spot, the power forward spot. Spurs, once again, giving up 12.6 rebounds per game. So, really favorable matchup here for rebounders. Whether you're a power forward or a center, the Spurs could potentially help you get right. So I wouldn't fall in love, once again, with the game logs. I would look a little bit closer here at what you're doing before you go making any rash decisions. Now, he's at 10.5 boards on 3 different books. Minus 125 to go over on one, minus 120 to go over on another. And I got him projected for 11.1 rebounds. So if Christian Wood ever wanted a matchup to get right in terms of rebounding the basketball, it would be tonight against San Antonio. So I would say be careful. Be careful on that one. Victor Hassan Whiteside under 0.5 assists or under 12.5 rebounds. Oh my goodness. Do we think Hassan Whiteside finds 1 assist today? That is the ultimate like boom or bust prop, huh? Man, they actually do have him up at 0.5 assists. Sheesh. Going up against Cleveland. I'd almost rather go to the rebounds. He's going to be going up against Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley, Lauri Markkanen. There's like 3 7-footers in their starting lineup, right? Now, I know he had 14 boards against Detroit, had the game of his life since joining the Jazz. Had 8, though, against Indiana without Gobert. Had 7 against Toronto without Gobert. So maybe this was a bit of an outlier. Maybe this is like a ceiling type of game. He's going up against Cleveland, so let's look at the matchup real quick. Centers, rebounds. How many are the Cavs giving up? 18.1. Ooh. They're actually giving up a lot of rebounds over the last 7 games. In fact, the 7th most. So this is a plus rebound situation and spot for Hassan Whiteside. I like looking at the power forward spot too. I know he's not a power forward, but let's look at it anyway. They're giving up 11.7. So kind of like the Spurs, right? The Cavs, they're up there. They're giving up a lot of rebounds over the last 7 games to both power forwards and centers. Whiteside projected for 12.1. Now, what also makes me a little hesitant about going under at 12.5 is the fact that 3 different books have him up at 13.5. So for whatever reason, their lines makers thought that 13.5 was an appropriate number for Hassan Whiteside. The matchup looks great. On paper, it looks like a great matchup. As good of a matchup as you could ask for, right? And he's projected for 12 boards. I think it could be a sweat. So to answer your question, I'm fading both. Yeah. I weaseled my way out of that one, huh? Just look somewhere else, man. It looks too crazy for me. It looks too chaotic of a prop. You don't have to go there. Okay? There's like a lot of options tonight. It's a big NBA slate. Aaron, you're asking about Al Horford under 8.5 points. Why are you asking about Al Horford under 8.5 points? Are you looking at his game logs again? What did I tell you about this, my friend? The game logs. I get it. You know, you see a lot of red and your eyes light up. You're like, let's go under. He had 3 against Indiana the last time they played. This dude will break out at some point. He will get back up to 9 or 10 points. I don't know if it's going to be today. I'm not saying it's going to be today. Maybe you do go under here. I can't predict the future. What we can do, though, because we know Marcus Smart's going to be out, just because I'm curious, Al Horford points without Marcus Smart game logs. I'm showing you guys how to use these tools. I want you to be better at betting. 3 games as a member of the Boston Celtics this season without Marcus Smart. He has actually covered 8.5 points in 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3. So more often than not, he's scoring 9 or more points this season without Marcus Smart. Let's go look at the matchup. He's a power forward. Let's go to the points category. Indiana. They clamped Al Horford last time they played. Will they clamp Al Horford again? They're giving up 22.3 points per game to power forwards. That's actually pretty high. That actually puts them toward the top of the list here. Go to the center spot. Indiana giving up how many points to opposing centers? So I like looking at both positions. 18.4. So there's definitely some upside here for Al Horford to score 9 points. If they're giving up 18.5 to centers and over 22 points to power forwards, there's definitely a chance Al Horford could find his way to 9 points. So don't be lazy with your player prop research and fall for the old okey doke and look at the 5-game logs and say, well, there's more red than green here. Got to go under. You got to do a little bit more research, folks. I'm here to open your mind up and enlighten you. 10.5 is his projected point total tonight. Minus 125, minus 130, betting favorite to go over 8.5 at the moment. Every single book, the betting public's taking the over on 8.5 points. Eventually, he's going to come back to life. 4 straight games. Do you think it'll be 5 straight games, especially with a key player like Marcus Smart out? I don't know. Just got to dig a little deeper. That's it. That's all I'm saying. What else are we talking about here? Let's look through some of these other props. See what you guys are talking about. What you talking about? Will Whiteside go under rebounds tonight? Listen, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know. I'm just going to stay away from it because the matchup looks great. DeJounte Murray. David Reeves wants to know about DeJounte Murray's points at 19.5. Listen, the Spurs, no doubt about it, they are beat up. They are depleted. They are missing a lot of key components, key players. So DeJounte Murray will have more of an opportunity than ever to score. And he's been doing that over the last 4 games. 22, 27, 19, and 24. He'll be facing off against the likes of Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green. So we'll just quickly look at the matchup. He's, the de facto point guard, right? Houston giving up about 25 points per game to opposing point guards. Murray's been showing good form in terms of scoring the basketball. He should have every opportunity to hit this prop. He should. We'll quickly pull up a projection. I got Murray going for 18.3 points. Here's what I'll tell you. He is at 20.5 points on 4 different sports books right now. At 20.5, people are betting the over. We're seeing him at 19.5. That is a 1-point value play. This is the same type of value that I found last night on both Lou Dort and DeAndre Ayton. And I took the over on both, and both ended up hitting. So yes, this number on PrizePicks, 19.5 points, is a little soft. The matchup is great. I like it. He's been scoring more and better. So there you go. We did talk about some Spencer Dinwiddie of the Washington Wizards. 16.5 points. Now, the reason we talked about him, I mentioned him to you guys earlier. I will do the search for you right now. Spencer Dinwiddie points without Bradley Beal. Game logs. Now, look at this. This is all from this season. All from this season. So all current stuff. We're looking at just the red here. 16.5 points. Games without Bradley Beal. 22, 24, 17, 21, 27, 23, 34. He's hit his point prop of 16.5 in every single game this season without Bradley Beal. Every single 100% hit rate. Every single time he's hit. One of those games was against tonight's opponent, the Orlando Magic, where he had 23 points. This game right here, 11, 13, 20, 21. Against Orlando, dropped 23 points without Bradley Beal. So do I like Spencer Dinwiddie over points? Well, what do you think? I think I do. Now we'll go over here. We'll look at the Orlando Magic last 7 games, see how many points that they're giving up to opposing point guards. 18.2. Now that is the 5th fewest. This is a difficult matchup. There's been a lot of moving parts and pieces over the course of this season, especially in the last 7 to 15 games. So let's just go back. Let's look at the last 30 games and see how Orlando has done against points and point guards. 22.4 over the last 30 games. Look at the last 15. Orlando giving up 20.1. Look at the last 7. Orlando giving up 18.2. So they're actually getting better or tougher on defense from 30 to 15 to the last 7 games. So they are, as a team, trending in the right direction defensively, which could be a problem for Spencer Dinwiddie. Could be. But I'm still going to have to ride with the 100% hit rate without Bradley Beal. Now, he is on a back-to-back, worth noting. Played OKC last night, dropped 22 points against them. Got him projected for 15.4 today. Now, one key thing here is that he's at 17.5 points on one book out there. 17.5 points, betting favorite at -112 to go under. Now, at 16.5 on 2 other books, -140, -145 betting favorite to go over. I got to lean toward the over here. Forget the projections. Got to lean toward the over on Dinwiddie. He's just shown an ability to get it done. So, yes, Robert, loving it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. You guys are saying Capella's doubtful, so we should not expect Clint Capella. You guys are liking some Gary Harris props. Well, let's just go per 36 minutes. Gary Harris, games without Bamba and without Carter Jr. out on the floor. Gary Harris, per 36, getting about 16.4 points per game. He's at 13.5 right now. So you could definitely go Gary Harris. I mean, if he plays 36 minutes, there's a chance that he goes over 13.5 points without the 2 bigs. Franz Wagner, 16.8. Not seeing as much of an edge on him. Could he do it? Of course he could. He's a good player. Cole Anthony, 22.9. He's at 20.5. Again, this is pending these guys play 36 minutes, right? So, maybe they do, maybe they don't. We don't know, but. So, probably the biggest edge would be for Gary Harris at 13.5 versus the 16.4 that he's at when he plays 36 minutes. Who else are you guys liking? Bogdanovich. JC, you're liking Bogdanovich threes. Bojan or Bogdan? It looks like it's Bogdan tonight. Bogdanovich, 2.5 threes going up against Miami. He's covered this in 3 straight games. 4, 4, and 3. Is Cam Reddish in or out? Cam Reddish, in or out? That's what I need to know. Because I believe with Cam Reddish out, with Clint Capella out, that would open things up clearly for Bogdanovich. I will pull up a projection for you. He is projected for 3 3-point makes, and at 2.5 3-point makes, a betting favorite, -150 to go over. Things are looking pretty good right now for Bogdanovich, especially if Cam Reddish and Clint Capella are truly out. David's really liking some Primo. Yes, Josh Primo's been playing pretty well with an increased role, more minutes. Omer Yurtseven's going to get those boards no matter what. Yes, he's the board lord. I've seen people call him the board lord. Is he not up on the board, though? He's not up on the PrizePicks board. So, yeah, they're blocking us. They're blocking us from the Yurtseven rebounds. You guys keep asking about Whiteside under rebounds. You play it if you want to play it. How about that? Your money. I ain't here to tell you what to do. You want to play Whiteside under rebounds? Be my guest. Yeah. Seth Curry, dad is a commentator, grew up here. Steph, yep. All the Charlotte narratives, right, for Seth Curry. Denzel, you're liking Woods' points, Gary Harris points, and Kevin Durant's points. Well, we definitely talked just now about Gary Harris points. Out of all the Orlando Magic players, I like G. Harris the most. Looks like the biggest edge would be with him. We haven't talked much about anything Kevin Durant. We talked about Christian Wood's rebounds being a potentially good spot against San Antonio. Let's talk about KD. Easy money sniper. Is he going to be easy money tonight, though, with James Harden and Kyrie Irving? Both of those guys, by the way, game time decisions. So before I go clicking anything Kevin Durant related, I need to know if James Harden and if Kyrie Irving are in or out. At 30.5 points against Chicago, I would like to believe that I can trust Kevin Durant, but I'm not going to click anything Kevin Durant until I get more news. I need to get more news. I need to make an informed decision here on Durantula. I got him projected for 31.1 points. At 31.5 points, the betting public taking the under right now on KD. We got to wait and see, folks. Got to wait and see. Trevor, you're asking about some Trae Young over on assists against the Miami Heat. Trae Young has that 9 to 10, even more than that upside when it comes to assists. 14 assist upside in some of these games. 9.5 versus Miami. He's coming off of a flop, which means he's definitely on my radar. He should be anyway. He had 11, 11, 14, 14. Then he flopped against the Clippers. Maybe this is the get right spot here for Trae Young. I'm just going to pull up a projection for him real quick. That's his points. Don't go getting crazy. 10.1 projected assists. They like him to go over. And then betting public, 3 sites. Everybody's taking the over. So, yeah, there you go. Wiz Orlando game definitely blowing out with no Bamba or Carter Jr. If you think that's the case, Mr. Reeves, then consider it with just a first half only option. First half only. James R says, thanks for the shout out about Vucevic under boards with Lonzo in. It saved my night. Yes, dropped that little nugget yesterday on the stream and posted a couple of things over on Twitter. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you can, at Curry the Creator. There's a link down in the description below for all things that I do. Prize Picks, Props.cash. If you want a discount on your first month of Props.cash, check it out. Great way to do your player prop research. And my Twitter info's down there too. But yes, I'm glad Vucevic helped you out. Research Prevails is saying that he doubts Bradley Beal clears protocols today. Do we like Dinwiddie again? You know what my answer is. I've already done that. Dreamville 1718. Just joined the Patreon gang. Let's get it. Welcome aboard, my friend. Listen, I'm not going to change your life. I'm not going to make any promises that you're going to get rich or anything like that. But listen, we got some guys in there, not just myself, but some other hardcore player prop researchers, man. We're putting in the work. We're putting in the time. We're trying to lead people to wins. Trevor, you're liking Lonzo Ball over 5 assists and DeMar DeRozan at 4.5 assists. Yeah, DeRozan hit his assist prop again last night. That's like 3 games in a row since Lonzo Ball has been back in the lineup. 8, 8, and 7. He's dropping dimes. Less scoring, more assisting for DeMar DeRozan. And you're also liking Lonzo Ball. He's hit 6, 5, and 5 in his last 3 games. So technically 100% hit rate at 5 assists. We go back even further here. Orlando, Houston, he had 7 and 8. That was kind of before the little layoff. Actually, no. He had the layoff between December 20th and January 3rd. So he's went for 7, 6, 5, and 5 since returning to the lineup. So yeah, he's hit 5 or more assists in 4 straight games. So Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan, yeah, I think both of them are in play. Let's look at the projections. I got DeRozan for 5.7 projected assists, but he's a betting favorite at -130 to go under. Maybe he looks to be more scoring focused with the Brooklyn Nets in town. And then we got Lonzo Ball at 5.5 assists, but -165 favorite to go under. But the projections have him over 5 at 5.8. Robert the Time Lord Williams, fantasy score. Let's look at it real quick. Fantasy score, Rob Williams, 34. Last 5 games have been good to Robert Williams. 4 out of the last 5, he's covered this number, 34 fantasy points. Guys, one in on another little secret. Let's look at it. Robert Williams, FanDuel points without Marcus Smart. Game logs. This is what you got to do sometimes. All right. We got Robert Williams fantasy points here. We call them FanDuel points. Same scoring as PrizePicks. Don't be alarmed. Don't be scared, people. 40 fantasy points the last time he took the court without Marcus Smart. 35.2. That's slightly over. And then 24.8. Well, that was from last season. Let's just look at the 2 from this season. So the 2 from this season, 35.2 and 40.3. He covered in 2 games without Marcus Smart. All right. Gives you just a little bit of an edge, a little bit more insight. Williams projected for 40 fantasy points right now, folks. According to Fantasy Labs, 40.1. That's like 6 fantasy points higher than where he's at right now at 34. So snatch that. All right. He's covered in 2 games without Smart. Projected for 40. He's sitting at 34 right now. Bogdanovich burned me on 3s last time. I wouldn't go there in my opinion, but watch him cover tonight with me fading him. Listen, we got to look and see, again, if Cam is out, Reddish, and what's the other? Clint Capella. If Cam Reddish and Clint Capella are out, then Bogdanovich is going to get some more shots, more opportunities. We talked about Murray's points. Trae Young under on points. You want to go under on Trae Young's points? How dare you? The gall, the audacity. 26.5 points. He's gone under this number in 3 out of 5 games. So I can kind of see what you're saying here. I see what you're saying. Another way that you can use StatMuse, you could do like individual matchups. You could do Trae Young versus Kyle Lowry. Game logs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different games. 7 different games in which he's faced Kyle Lowry in his career. He's gone over in 3 out of 7. 3 out of 7 at 26.5 points. And then you could go Trae Young versus the Heat game logs. And you can see how many times he's gone over when he faces the Miami Heat in his career. He's only gone over 26.5 points versus the Heat 1 time. Dropped 50 points on him back on 2/20/2020. Otherwise, he struggles against the Heat. Of course, this is a very different Miami Heat team. They won't have their full complement of players. They are depleted. So maybe the matchup gets a little bit easier. But Kyle Lowry, that little pit bull from Villanova, man, he's going to be up in Trae Young's jersey. You can better believe that. Let's pull up a projection for Mr. Ice Trae. Is he going to be melted ice tonight? Is it going to be melted ice? Is the Heat going to melt Ice Trae Young? 29.2 is his projected point total. He is at 27.5 points on pretty much every book out there. So we're getting a point of value here on Trae Young. But at 27.5, betting favorite to go under on all these sites at 27.5, which is probably a reason why he's at 26.5. Okay. Aaron Rodgers, the Green Bay Packers quarterback, liking Christian Wood rebounds against San Antonio. I mean, the matchup is there for him to get it done. Definitely there to get it done. Robert, Kyle Kuzma, 21.5 points. Well, we know Kyle Kuzma's rebounds might be best avoided as long as Montrezl Harrell's in the picture. Kuzma didn't even come close, but he did get buckets once again. 29 points without Bradley Beal in the lineup for Kyle Kuzma. He's facing off against Orlando tonight. Last time he faced Orlando, January 9th, had 27 points against the Magic. All he needs is 22 tonight. So, looking pretty good. Has shown that this season he can score the ball against Orlando. But he's projected for 15.6 points. I got to go with my boy Dinwiddie before I go with Kuzma. Dinwiddie, again, in case you missed it, 100% hit rate at 16.5 points without Bradley Beal this season. So, there you go. What you folks talking about? Said you're liking Al Horford unders. Okay. Okay, player. I ain't mad at it. Wow, we're going on 2 hours. I've just gotten so carried away today. Hope you guys are picking up all that I'm putting down here, folks. T. Rob believes that Joel Embiid's going to go crazy tonight. Will the Greek Freak guard Embiid? The Greek Freak? Who the hell is on Charlotte that is known as the Greek Freak? There's only one Greek Freak, and that is Giannis Antetokounmpo. What Greek Freak are you talking about, sir? Is there a Greek player on the Charlotte Hornets that will guard Embiid tonight? No, Greek Freak will not be guarding Embiid. Pretty sure. Pretty sure they're on different teams, my friend. What else you guys talking about here? I'm just scrolling through real quick. I did not realize we were at like 2 hours already. Sheesh. Yeah, we talked Hawks fan. We talked about Malik Monk over 2.5 threes made. I like it. I think it's a good bounce back spot for him, especially when you see what he did against Sacramento. Last time they played, he had like 6 threes. You guys are saying that Cam Reddish is doubtful. Well, then Bogdanovich has got to be looked at. We got to be looking at Bogdanovich. Craig says, so PrizePicks is not making their own lines. We don't get Yurtseven boards or points, but fantasy is there. Don't get Seth Curry's assist, but his fantasy is there. Bogus. I don't know what goes into that process, my friend. I truly do not. Truly don't. I'm not sure. CJ over under 0.5 blocks. You talking about me? He cleared that real quick. You know, got to keep the chat on point. Hate when I have a work meeting during the stream. Don't these people know CJ is spreading the truth? I'm trying to, man. I'm trying to put you guys on some damn good plays, all right? I didn't block anything, by the way. I don't have the ability to block like anything in real time. So if you said something that was crazy, maybe it automatically blocked it. I think I do have some bots that are monitoring the channel, though. Monitoring the chat. They try to keep it clean. All right, so maybe the bots are swatting your shit. See that? I could say shit, but you can't, because your shit will get swatted up out of here real quick. I know it's not fair. Life's not fair. Life's not fair. Santiago, we did talk about Mitchell Robinson's rebounds earlier in the show. It looks like a tough matchup for Mitchell Robinson. We also talked about his points, I believe, at 7.5. Juan Julio, no, we have not talked about John Collins' rebounds, but without Clint Capella around, you'd imagine that maybe John Collins finds some boards. Is he up on the board? He is. He's at 9 versus Miami. He's going up against the board lord himself, though, Yurtseven. Collins not rebounding at a very high clip over his last few games here. So in some, circumstances like this, you go, John Collins rebounds without Clint Capella. Game logs. And we'll try to stick to just this season. Okay, so he had 12 boards back on 12/22 without Clint Capella. 5 against Philly, 7 against the Clippers. I think there's better places to go than trying to waste your time here with old John Collins. He ain't getting it done. Doesn't look like he's getting it done. 8.9 is his projection at 9.5 boards on 3 different books. Betting favorite at -155. Odds to go under 9.5. Hey, JC, appreciate the follow, man. JC following CJ. It's just, it's meant to be, man. King Trey TV says, I appreciate your channel. No BS. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you've thanked me by leaving a like. I hope you have. Yeah, Yurtseven's fantasy points looking pretty tasty. I agree. JC Millis. RJ Barrett over on assists. Kyle Lowry over on free throws. Yurtseven over on fantasy. And Dinwiddie maybe over on points. Yes, those all look like pretty good options. Tim Hardaway Jr. under on fantasy points. Aaron Rodgers, you're not wanting to take the discount double check on THJ today, hey? Okay, I got you. Yeah, I don't know what we're talking about with the Greek Freak there. Bagley rebounds. Sean, Bagley rebounds have been pretty good at like 7.5. Is he still there? Yeah, he is. He's still there. Last time he faced LA, he pulled in 12 boards. We talked about no Rashawn Holmes. We talked about, what's his name? Jones, I want to say, for Sacramento. He's going to be out. That's another one of their big guys. I forget his first name. So it'll be like Alex Lynn, Marvin Bagley, Metu. Those guys will kind of be manning the middle for Sacramento. So yeah, Bagley had 12 boards the last time that he faced the Lakers. We could go back to it. I think we could go back to it. I got him projected for 7-7. He is a betting favorite under 7.5 on 3 different books. Or 2 out of the 3 anyway. 2 out of the 3. But he did pull in 12, so the upside's there. Big booty Lowry, baby. Big booty Lowry. Going through the rest of these here. Thanks for the Kyle Lowry research. You're welcome. You're welcome. Big booty Lowry. He's going to put that thing on him, man. MJ Johnson, Tyrese Maxey points over. Maybe. Are we sure Seth Curry's playing? That's going to be the question mark for me, the wait and see. I don't have anything up yet for Maxey on the PrizePicks board, but I will just quickly, easily pull up a projection for you. I don't have anything for Maxey. My apologies. I think we're waiting on the Seth Curry points. DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine first half points. They were good, but I'm a little bit scared of whatchamacallit. Lonzo Ball being back. DeRozan and LaVine have kind of been off lately with Lonzo Ball being back. Scary Terry and Spider Mitchell points before you leave. Well, Scary Terry's always in play for me, 18.5. But listen, the way that you attack Philadelphia is not through guards. They are clamping guards down, if I remember correctly. Looking at points allowed to point guards, they're down toward the bottom, 20.6. 20.6. We go to the shooting guard position. We go all the way down to the bottom here. Philadelphia giving up just 18.8. So I would just say be careful. Be careful. Be careful. Don't know if I love it. I blocked your under 8.5 point prop projection suggestion. I just said, look at it a little bit closer, man. That's all. Look at it a little bit closer.
Do you want me to do the Kimbe Mutombo? No.
Nah, I ain't trying to block anybody's hopes and dreams. Maybe Al Horford does stay under. But listen, there's a chance without Marcus Smart that Horford gets back over the top. All right? That's it, guys. Listen, it's been 2 hours. Elijah, what's happening, my brother? I'm out of energy here. I got to go grab some lunch. You guys warned me the hell out. Hopefully you've landed on some winning picks and plays. Thank you so much for liking today's stream. Thanks for being here, keeping things light, entertaining, productive. Appreciate all of you. I'm going to be up out of here. All right? Up out of here. See you in Discord. See you on Patreon. Peace.